When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink, but I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds. I love chic branding, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Zoe, and you're listening to Climbing in Heels for your weekly dose of glamour, inspiration, and, of course, fun. I have so loved seeing all of your thoughts and comments on these rewatch episodes. It means so much to me that so many of you are still inspired and entertained by the Rachel Zoe Project. Today, we are tackling Season 1, Episode 3. And I'm with my producer, Mary Elizabeth. So let's dive right into this look back at New York Fashion Week. Oh my God.
Episode 3, Season 1. We find Rachel Zoe ready to embark upon New York Fashion Week. The episode tees up with some drama that I think, unfortunately, followed you for way, way longer than it seemingly needed to. But since we are rewatching the show, and since the show addressed the controversy that you found yourself in.
I'm also reliving my life right now, I'd like to add, which is probably why I haven't watched this since it aired.
Yes.
But yes.
The hot topic is that you are explaining in the scene to Brad about a situation that happened in the news media that was claiming that you were giving your clients, your styling clients, drugs. Drugs to lose weight, drugs to I don't know what. But the insinuation was that Rachel Zoe was responsible for providing drugs. And I believe it was like a horse medication.
A horse pill of some sort.
Asthma something. I forget now because it was so absurd. But you've only talked about this a little bit before. So I wanted you to really kind of share, A, what that was, B, the kind of fallout from it, because it did track you for a while.
You know, it's kind of weird because this was all pre-social media.
Right. Thank God.
Thank God. But what's so, I think, surreal about my experience in the spotlight and sort of like not trying to be in the spotlight, but sort of being, I guess, pulled into it via my work, I think what happened was some of my clients at the time were young and, you know, obviously thin, but they were thin, but also
in the party scene.
Correct.
Yes.
And listen, so was Kate Moss, so was every model, so was every this, so was every that, so was a lot of rock stars, but it just happened that I think it was the perfect storm of the tabloids kind of being like, who's dressing all these people? Who's da-da-da-da? Wait, why are these people getting so thin? Oh, there must be some connection.
Sure.
But the irony of that, not only was it insane, but, you know, you've known me 12 years.
Yes.
I think people that have known me for 20 plus years, I'm the darkest I get is 2 glasses of wine.
And that's like 2 glasses of wine in like 6 to 8 hours of an evening.
With ice.
Watered down.
With ice. And I'll never forget, there was an incredibly public person who was interviewed at the time. I'm not going to say the name because he has taken a turn. But this person at the time was interviewed alongside many of my clients, like Cameron Diaz and Salma Hayek and Jennifer Garner, and women who were clearly have very healthy bodies, very confident in their bodies, and would say to me, Rachel doesn't let you leave her studio without eating.
Right.
Like, it couldn't be more opposite. And I remember this guy in the interview had said, and very high level, powerful person, said, well, that's crazy. In fact, she's socially boring. And he said that as a joke to be like, she's the first one to leave a party. She is
100%.
like the one that tells everyone to like stop drinking, you know.
Have some water.
Have some water. Here's a glass of water. This isn't a good look. It's
Yeah.
not chic to be falling down.
No.
But so I think for me, that's probably had a lot to do with why that hurt so much, because I think when something is true historically,
Yeah.
you just go, oh, okay, they figured me out, or
Right.
they figured it out, or like, okay, that happened. Okay. But, you know, I think you see that a lot with public people, that there's a lot of fodder.
Yep.
And listen, in full disclosure, a lot of times when there is fodder, there is some truth. Like where
Right.
there's smoke, there is fire.
Sure.
But in this case, it was trying to create something that was so opposite of the truth in every possible way. I was like this very somewhat normal girl living in this crazy life with a husband
Right.
and a family and nieces and nephews, as I mentioned in the show. And I'm like, God, they're going to see this. Like,
Yeah.
what on earth? And so I just felt like I always had to be in this place of defense, and for many years. And it was, you know, at some point you start to sort of feel like you're always defending and you don't even actually know why.
Yeah.
And it gets really exhausting.
Well, this scandal, if you will call it that,
Yes.
this part of your life, correct me if I'm wrong, was actually one of the impetus to start the Rachel So project.
was.
Because wasn't it Roger that said to you, look, people are going to talk no matter what. You've
Correct.
put yourself in a public position. You're in the limelight
I
now.
don't even know if I put myself there, but
No,
yes.
for better or for worse,
Right.
people recognize your name now. They associate you with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
And what better way to
Set it straight.
set the record straight than by having your own show and letting people in on your life and being like, clearly you're not a drug addict.
Right.
Clearly you're not somebody that would ever harm a client or put them at risk for anything.
Totally.
So really, I mean, we wouldn't have the Rachel So project if you hadn't gone through that shitty time.
No, it's true, because I think I was very hesitant to do the show for many reasons. I think because I had an idea of what I wanted it to be, and obviously it didn't turn out that way exactly at all.
Right.
Because, you know, you make plans and God laughs.
Uh-huh.
But I think, you know, I love how much people love it, but it's rewatching it is surreal, quite frankly. And it is really, this is your life. But it also helps me solve a lot of puzzles in my mind. Because
Right.
when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, this is why this is why that. That was probably one of the hardest parts of my whole career, was misconceptions about me, misquotes
Yeah.
that seemingly ruined my life at the time.
Right.
You know, that felt like the world was ending.
Right.
And you know, I get very hurt by that. You
Right.
know, and it's funny because there's a line where I think Brad says, or somebody says, you have thick skin. Marc Jacobs, I think,
Yeah.
says you have thick. Someone says
Or you have to have thick skin, or you do.
have
You're a
to, or
soldier. You have to
do.
have thick skin. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of me does, but most of me doesn't.
Yeah.
I think the thick skin comes now,
Yeah.
100
Well,
years after
and
all
again-
of this happening.
Again, timeline wise, this is before social media. This is before you could go on your own platforms,
Yes, it's
on your
true.
own channels with
It's
your
true.
people who follow you and defend yourself
It's
and say
true.
this isn't true.
You're right.
This, you kind of just back then, publications run bad
Exactly.
press, and that's
It's
it.
true.
You
Sorry.
have no way to defend yourself.
You're shit out of luck.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can maybe combat the press with some other exclusive interview, but
Mm-hmm.
that's it. That's all you have in your control.
Well, okay, so I want to talk about that
Mm-hmm.
because there is a part where I don't know that this is covered in the show. I can't remember if it was before or during, but there was this journalist who followed me for like a month
Mm-hmm.
through Paris Fashion Week, New York, did this from one of the best publications in the world.
Yep.
And it was sort of like, it was one of those things where I was nervous to do it. And I remember very clearly saying, I don't want to do this. But they basically were like, we're doing it with or without you.
Oh,
So we'd love your participation.
yeah. Okay.
And so we did. And we became friendly and blah, blah, blah. And there was 95% of it was great. And then 5% was a misquote. an answer placed to a totally different question, blah, blah, blah.
Ugh.
And that pretty much ruined my soul for
Yeah.
I don't even know when it ended.
Yeah.
Parts of it still ruins my soul.
Yeah.
And so I think when I think about that, I think about the power of social media and how every single person now has a voice.
Yeah.
Even if you have 10 followers, you can still tell your 10 followers
the
what's
truth.
right.
Your truth.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also been, that time paparazzi culture was so insane and invasive, and they were everywhere, and they were following cars, and they were endangering people on the road. I mean, it was wild. And I think social media ended the craze, because now people took the power back and said, I'm going to post my own photo. I'm going to take the power back and show people, my own image.
Yeah. Well, for
better or for worse, social media has its pluses.
Well, truthfully, when I had Sky, and I remember the Pops chasing us constantly, and I was running down like back alleys with a stroller.
Scary.
Yes, because I was on foot. I do remember one of my friends who's a big celebrity said to me, post your own photos.
Yeah.
Because I think that's right when Instagram or Twitter, I can't remember, came out. And I remember her saying, if you post it, they will chase you less.
Right.
And I was like, what? Share my kid on social? And then you know what? It really did, because I could control it.
Right.
And then they wouldn't, because I remember a Pop saying to me, if I come back without a picture of your son, I'm fired.
Right. Because all of a sudden, that valuable image that they go and sell, now you have control over it.
Yeah.
You give it to the internet yourself.
Yep.
So yeah, again, social media, there's some good, there's some bad. I do want to give you kudos, and I want to give you props on something that I noticed in episode 3. There's a scene where you're packing for Fashion Week with Marissa, who we love, who we had on the show. And you used to pack anywhere between 5 to 8, I would say, full-sized
30-inch.
suitcases.
30-inch Toomies, to be exact.
For like 7 days in New York. As if you were going to a desert island, not the biggest city in the world, that you didn't have access to all of those things. So I want to publicly shout out, you pack way less now.
Yes.
I'm very proud of you.
And I wore a lot of my archives at that time as well.
You did. You packed a lot of the precious stuff too.
When I go through my archive now, I look at and I go, season 2, season 3 Paris. See, like I know I wore everything. The Chanel jacket,
That's also your psychostylist disease.
Yeah, but all the like jackets and looks that Margot Robbie's worn on her Barbie tour,
own.
I own, and they're in Rachel Zoe project. A lot of them.
So funny. I noticed also recently Kim Kardashian had those
Yes.
little cropped Chanel jackets, which is so funny. So funny. So kudos on you being a more efficient packer these days.
Well,
I guess
there's a picture I'll share maybe when we post this episode of me going to London and Paris, or Milan and Paris, and I think we're about to go on the Eurostar, and we have like 14 suitcases or something.
Dear God.
It was a lot.
Unwell.
It was a lot.
Okay, I want to ask a question about a scene that happens in this episode also. You get to New York, Brad and Taylor are there. You have an adjoining room with Brad? Or it's like it was like a Jack and Jill kind of room?
Yeah, well, I remember it. So it was like it was the penthouse room.
Is this Thompson?
It was Thompson Soho.
Soho. Okay.
Soho,
so we're not
Thompson.
At Lower East Side yet.
No,
okay.
that didn't exist yet, actually.
Right. Okay.
So it was 60 Thompson. It was owned by Jason Pomerantz. And I remember him. I got the penthouse. I loved that room. Because it was so open.
Gorgeous.
And there was this hangout at the bottom. And then there was the bedroom was at the top in a loft.
Okay.
But it's only one bedroom. So in order to have any actual space, you needed the attached room for like clothing, styling, racks. Like, so I needed that room for actually my job.
Sure.
So we slept upstairs.
Right. You explained in the episode too, you pack up a lot of the styling studio in LA because you're dressing clients
of course.
in New York.
I had clients in New York, so I had to take all that stuff.
So that was essentially going to be the makeshift styling area.
Correct. Everywhere we went, there was a styling room.
So
it was my room to sleep, and then there was a room for clothes.
Got it. So you could have Joy Bryant comes in. That's where you're like
right.
working with her.
Like when I used to work with like Backstreet Boys and Britney and like whatever, I would have like a presidential suite. The label would give me this massive, because you needed all the room for like 40 racks of clothes.
Oh,
so,
God.
So anyway, what happened was, I guess they put Brad, thinking I would want him so close to me.
Right. In the like,
which I didn't.
In the like adjoining room.
It's also like professionally, like
it's kind of
weird, unless it's you. Like,
but
that's weird.
You're with your husband too. It's like
totally
also weird.
All of that is completely weird. So they basically put Brad in my room.
Gotcha. So Brad then goes to Taylor's room and has to share.
I think because it was Fashion Week, so there was not another room.
Yes. Right, which makes sense. But I will say it feels a little bit like the storyline between the two of them. Like she's like, there's rules. Don't talk to me. Don't breathe on me.
Oh, actually.
Right.
I remember her actually doing that.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of like, honestly, like, listen, I'm someone that really needs personal space. So I do understand. And it was very annoying. And she was like, stop talking to me. As you can see, Taylor's angry at everyone.
Yes. Yes. So, okay. So that was a real life situation and it did make it onto the show.
And it did make it onto the show. And I think they obviously played that out, you know. But yeah, they really didn't have a room for Brad.
Oh, poor Brad. So another running theme of this episode is Roger.
Yes.
We find out Roger doesn't often get seats at shows that you're attending at Fashion Week.
Right.
Which I guess makes sense because you're sat on the front row. So that's obviously a very limited space situation.
Yes. Well, it's also interesting because it depends on the designer. Because very often in Europe, they would always seat us together.
Okay.
Because they were much more respectful of like a
plus
husband
one?
and wife are together. Like in France, you don't separate the but I think, with all due respect, I do understand that those front row seats are tight and you have to take care of hundreds of buyers and like senior editors and then the wave of celebrities that then started, which is now influencers. And so it's it's like Tetris.
Right. Yeah.
Doing the seating for a show. So I do understand it. And I think what I remember was with the show, Brad and Taylor, it was a certain amount of seats. Like, so they gave me one for Roger and a lot of them. And then that was given to Brad and Taylor for the show.
I see. That makes sense.
Yes.
That
Roger
definitely makes sense.
Didn't care.
Of course he didn't. Roger, how do we describe Roger during New York Fashion Week? He's just like very busy. He has like 1,000 meetings. He books himself up.
Yes.
And he has more lunches and coffees
and drinks
and happy hours than any human on the history of the planet.
It's
so
true.
The episode very much made me feel like, oh, poor Roger. But then I'm like,
I don't
nah.
think he was working with me at the time.
Not fully.
We had not started working together. So he was still working he had started the Webby Awards, his internet company after investment banking. So for him, it was like, he'll go to what's fun if I want him there, but he also doesn't want to be like, he like love hated it.
I can see that. I can see
hated
that
it
for sure. There's a scene in the episode where you get a preview of the collection that Peter Salm is going to show. And in the preview, you kind of give an educational overview to the audience about how runway pieces work and how hard it was and is to get your hands on those pieces.
Yeah.
Because there are so many parts of the fashion business that want them. So there are editors that want the looks immediately to put on and cover in magazines and editorial. There's publicists that you're fighting with to get that look. There's other stylists. So I really think it was a good educational breakdown moment for you to say, it's cutthroat. It's really hard.
It was the hardest, in many ways, the hardest part of being a stylist, because I would see a look, I would envision it on one of my clients, And then you got the Grace Coddington needs it for the cover of Vogue. Linda Fargo needs this for the window at Bergdorf.
Right.
It won't be available for another week. Well, the Oscars is in 3 days.
Right.
Sorry, it's committed to the thing, but they want it on the celebrity, but they want it in the window, and there was one.
Or it has to be back for a sales appointment.
Correct.
Or it's
and then that's not even counting the actual other stylists that are gunning for it.
Right.
So it was
So how does
I
it work?
shed a lot of tears
I
over
bet.
Valentinos that went to like a different stylist that the stylist was not even using. I'm not going to mention names, but there was a handful of stylists that would hoard dresses that they weren't using but didn't want another person to use them.
Oh.
Yeah. Truthfully.
Dirty.
Yeah, it was bad.
So,
or
okay.
lie to the PR person and say they were and it was still in the running, but it wasn't.
It clearly wasn't. Ooh, dirty.
And
okay.
I was the opposite.
So the politics of that, how does that work?
Brutal. When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I'm constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart Water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cup is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big MQL man. Then he just kept saying things like, the more MQLs the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means marketing qualified lead. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the MQL man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/customer to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/customer. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So, buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic. oracle.com/strategic.
When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I am constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart Water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cap is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more. When it comes to living life, there's a lot to overthink. Like most working moms, I am constantly juggling my work and my family life, and sometimes all that decision making is truly exhausting. But at least I don't ever have to overthink my water. I've been drinking Smart Water for many, many years and truly love its pure, crisp taste. It's vapor distilled through a process inspired by clouds and has added electrolytes for taste. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, every morning, is head down to my kitchen to drink water. Hydrating with Smart Water is my favorite way to start the day, and making that simple choice is such a refreshing change of pace from the whirlwind of my life. Starting my day by focusing on myself and my health is so important to me. I'm always a lover of chic branding and packaging, and Smart Water's sleek bottle shape makes it the perfect accessory for any day bag, workout tote, or backpack. I absolutely love how the rounded bottle fits perfectly into my kids' side pockets for school or camp. Smart Water even looks chic displayed on any counter or vanity in my house. As most moms know, it can be tricky to get kids to drink enough water, but my boys absolutely love the taste of Smart Water, and the sports cap is great for their very, very active days. Smart Water is the smart way to hydrate no matter what you have going on in your life. Life is full of choices. Smart Water is a simple one. Visit drinksmartwater.com to learn more.
So what you have to do is, I'm sure you already had a very close connection with a lot of the designers themselves.
Yeah.
But it's also very important to keep that relationship very strong, so that they go, I only have this dress.
Yes.
One of a kind. I'm going to give it to, and I trust Rachel Zoe.
Correct.
To put it on the correct person.
Correct.
So lots of balls in the air.
Correct. So what's different now, I would say the biggest difference from when I was styling versus now is that now most of the big celebrities are contracted to wear certain designers.
Yeah.
And so that drama does not exist, I don't think, as much, because let's just say so-and-so is contracted to wear Armani or Louis Vuitton or whatever, right? Or Chanel. They're only going to wear that designer. So it's more like which Louis Vuitton versus like this one was custom made and cost $100,000 to make, but they're not going to wear it. It's like, okay, they'll wear it for the next event. It's okay. You know?
But don't you think that in and of itself has completely changed the styling business?
The styling business is different in every possible way.
Right.
There's no way that it's not different anymore.
Because now you don't have a choice. No. Like your client is locked in with a certain design house, and that's kind of like it.
And I truthfully, towards the end of before my styling pause, I would say that one of the biggest triggers for me was that I was working with people that were contracted, and the confines of what that meant in many situations was hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the designer wasn't accommodating to the person that was wearing it. And I would, as a liaison, I'm sort of like, I'm here to sort of like make sure that you're happy and confident and feel beautiful. And then the designer's like, well, this is what I created for them. And I'm like, cool. So then I'm in sort of
purgatory.
Correct. And then I very clearly remember, like it was yesterday, countless times of having to tell the designers that their dress was not ultimately chosen. And it was, but I was very honest. Like I would text them and be like, it's down to yours and one other.
Yeah.
And even up until 30 minutes before an event, I would say, it's still not final. She's still going back and forth because I the worst thing I could do would be like, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening.
And then
it doesn't even, I don't even know that ultimately it helps, but I think for me, it felt better to be transparent rather than be like, you got it.
And blindside
they're wearing
them.
this. And it's like not, because I am so close with so many designers still that are like, I have 5 people, or I have my dream is coming true tonight. And then the dress fucking changes. And then they call me, they're like in tears.
What the hell happened?
Yeah. Yeah. And it happens. Listen, at the end of the day, celebrities are humans, right? They are famous humans, but they are humans. And things happen and they get influenced or they feel shitty. Or what if they were wearing a skin tight white dress and they get their period and they're like, nope.
Can't wear it.
Can't wear it.
Yeah.
Like that happens. They're real people.
Life happens. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely cutthroat. It seems like.
And it sounds so silly because it's clothes. But it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's weird. Styling to me was never clothes.
Right. Yeah.
Styling to me was like a transformative experience that hopefully would change someone and how they felt about themselves when they put themselves out into the world for millions and millions of people to see and judge.
And criticize. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
And by the way, don't forget that at that time, that was still the time of brutal shaming of worst dress, they're heavy, are they pregnant, or they da-da-da, they got dumped, like body shaming, sex shaming, hair shaming,
crazy.
Shaming everything.
Yeah, just shame. Yeah, that's
shit that's illegal now.
I'm glad we've sort of kind of moved away from that.
Yeah.
This brings up another point in the episode that I want to talk to you about, because you're sitting at the Erin Featherston show. And of course, you've just like sprinted to get ready. You barely know what you're going to wear. You throw on an Erin Featherston dress.
By the way, isn't it nice that nothing's changed?
Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Still to this day. It's 30
frazzled.
seconds before.
Still frazzled. Don't know what I'm wearing.
Doesn't know what she's wearing ever. And you're sitting there and the camera's watching you watch the runway show, and there's a voiceover interview moment of you talking about how Fashion Week is still such a wonderful thing for you, and you still love fashion show so much. And you talked about how cool it is to sit in the front row, but you used to have to sneak into shows.
Oh, yeah.
How did you crash a fashion show?
Oh my God.
Was it easy?
No. No. But it was scary, actually. You know that feeling when you have a fake ID and you're going into a club
100%.
and your stomach's in knots, like, oh my God, I don't want to get arrested.
Right. You're like, this could be the end of me.
It felt like that. It felt like, please don't let me be humiliated and have security guards carrying me out of here for trying to do this.
Yes.
And the first show I crashed was a Marc Jacobs show in Bryant Park. And I will never forget it because I went after work. His shows were always at night. And I know. His shows were always at night. And I went out after work because I was always the last one to leave. And I remember walking, kind of someone telling me where it was. And I was obsessed with Marc Jacobs. I just thought he was New York City cool. He just was.
Still is.
It still is.
Yeah.
And I just remember I put on some outfit. I feel like I was in my most expensive thing I owned, which was I bought a black Karl Lagerfeld dress, which I still have, by the way.
Oh my God.
And I bought it at a vintage shop.
Yeah.
Because I was maybe it was $300. I don't know.
Right.
And I wore that with boots, hair, and lots of makeup.
Yeah.
And I just remember being outside, and I was online. There was all these standing room. They used to have the line for standing.
Okay.
And I would I stood in the line, swarm of people, didn't know a soul. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. And I must have been 23 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick McMullen, I guess at the time, the biggest like photographer, him and Bill Cunningham, the New York Times. He was like this sweet old man that rode around on a bike with a camera and took pictures of all the stylish people. And Patrick started taking pictures of me online.
Okay.
And he said to me, "Who are you? What's your name? I feel like I'm going to be seeing a lot more of you."
Ooh.
And I said, "My name is Rachel." And he said, "Rachel what?" And I said, "Rachel Zoe." And I might have said Rosenzweig, but maybe not. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And he said, "I feel like I'm going to be seeing a lot of you."
Ooh.
And I was like, huh? I was like so confused. I just was like, what? And because he was taking a picture of me, other photographers joined him. Because they're like, well, you know, they want to see.
Something's going on.
And I think because of that, they let me in.
Nice.
And I went in and got in the front of standing room because it was like a pylon. I got in the front. And I was so small. So I just kind of like
you could
squeeze through.
Wiggle.
And I squeezed through. And then all of a sudden the lights went down and there was an open seat in like the second row.
Amazing.
So I just took that seat. And that was it.
Wow.
That was it.
I don't think I've ever heard that story.
Yeah, that was it.
I love that. That's like iconic New York Fashion Week
But
moment.
that's also why when I met Marc and we connected so much and became so close,
Yeah.
it was like this, you know, in the pinch me moments of life, you're sort of like, how am I talking to him right now?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like he's a normal person when he's not a normal person? He's Marc Jacobs, you know?
He's a legend. Well, Marc is in this episode with you and you go and you meet with him and he's like eating. I was like giggling. He's like eating. It looks like boiled chicken and rice.
It was like chicken. I think at the time he had lost a lot of weight and gotten into shape.
Right.
And I think it was, you know, Marc goes through like these sort of cycles and he's so disciplined.
Right.
And he's so smart, you know.
So smart.
And I remember when he was doing that and I just remember going and it was sort of like he was on such a regimen where it was like, I'm going to eat this very clean dinner, you know, and it had to be at a certain time.
Right. So there you are. You're sitting with him talking about him. And a through line of this episode is that the sort of conversation of bad press kicked off that you were photographed going into Marc's show late. And the press was saying that you were Rachel Zoe was partying too hard and was late for her friend's show or some dumb headline.
It's called traffic.
Right. It's called New York City traffic. Crosstown traffic, baby.
And also Marc at that time, what he did, because he's brilliant and clever, Marc had such a reputation for starting an hour late. And sometimes even more than that. And so for many, many years, people knew that if they went to Marc and the show was at 7, it wouldn't start till at least 8.
Okay.
And so people would sit. And they would sit and they would sit and they would wait and they would wait and they would wait.
Now, is that because models are late? Is that because Marc himself was still tweaking? Is that because not all the celebrities were there that needed to be there?
I don't think it was intentional. I think it was about the models. I think it was about the hair and makeup. Marc's shows were so elaborate.
Yeah.
That I think it was just sort of time of models and glam and fittings and his clothes. His looks were always so intricate, you know? And I think ultimately what happened was he would start late and by the way, like no one ever left.
Right. I know.
And then it would always turn into a party. And I'll never forget one of the most epic ones was the night before 9/11. I'll never forget it. And you know, his shows were so legendary. It was like a show that you waited an hour and then it was on and then it turned into the party that went till 3 a.m. and you know, but what happened that night, I remember very clearly, was that Marc flipped a switch after many years of starting an hour late and basically started, if the show was at 8 p.m., he started at 7:59. Those lights were out.
Ready to go.
Music and if you missed it, you missed it. And I think I got there at like 8:02 because of traffic. And so, I walked in late and it was like, I wanted to cry.
Made headline news, allegedly.
It was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
It's really sweet, though, because in the episode you do Joey, your makeup artist, Joey Maloof, was doing your makeup, and you get a little bit emotional.
Yeah.
And Roger's there to sort of like, talk you off the ledge.
Yeah.
And then it's so cute because in another scene, your dad calls the hotel room and he's like, seemingly like, what is this like story of you, Marc Jacobs? Like, what's going on?
You could literally always count on parents, especially my dad, to the sweetest person alive. And yet somehow will always email me like, what is this on page 6 about you? Thanks, Dad. Haven't seen it. Haven't heard about it. Thank you, though.
Salt in the wound, Dad.
Exactly. Thanks for reminding me. But, I will say the biggest thing that I notice in watching the show, and it'll be interesting to see season 2, 3, and 4, and 5, how tired I am.
Yeah.
I really see, you really, really see how exhausted I am. And I think and I keep saying it to you as I'm watching it. I'm like, God, I look like hell. I look like hell.
See, I'm living for the hair and makeup of the time.
But no amount of makeup can mask the bags
smoky eye.
under my eyes.
Yeah, you were working at a frantic pace, to say the least. You even talk about that. There's a scene with you're in a car, you and Brad and Taylor are on your way somewhere. And you're like, if I drink and I don't sleep, you're like, I will not be able to make it. I won't function. I'll be asleep on the floor of this car.
Which is funny because I still don't sleep. So I'm not really sure how this all goes.
God, we got to crack the sleep code. That's been our goal
I think
for
we have to crack
a while
the life
now,
code.
Rachel, though.
I think I got to crack the life code and
Yeah,
then
we
we
gotta-
crack the sleep code.
Lot to say. Okay, I have to say, personally, I've known you for 12 years. I've been your assistant. I've worked for you, for your company. I am really privileged to know your family really well. I know almost everything about you. Rachel Zoe,
Yeah, God.
you used to get Splenda in your tea.
Did I?
Yes.
Ew.
There is a scene where you're getting your English breakfast tea, 2 bags, double cupped, with a Splenda. Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah,
Who was
because
she?
I have not used sweetener
Since you got pregnant. I guarantee you it's because that's when you quit Diet Coke too.
It's true. I have not had a chemical sweetener in anything in 14 years because Sky's 13. So
Yep.
when I got pregnant. So 14 years, I have not had like a toxic chemical.
No.
And it's wild.
I know.
When I see my sister sweeten her coffee, I'm shook.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
to
it's
each their
Truvia, but is Truvia not?
No, I think Truvia is way better than
Well, it is.
Yeah.
My mother still uses Sweet and Low.
I know. So does my father.
I think she figures at 83.
Live it up, Les. Live it up. But anyways, that was like literally I had paused and I laughed. I was like, no way. Just when you think you know someone. I'm like, who was she? I barely know her. Again, a through line for this episode. In episode 2, it's heavily featured that you are with Joy Bryant and Deborah Messing. And then you go to the Michael Kors show with them in this episode, which is exciting. You're sitting on the front row with them. Mm-hmm. You give a little excerpt about how completely polar opposite their style preferences are.
Yeah.
Like Deborah is very into glamour, into high fashion, loves to dress up. And Joy, you're like, please. Well, because can we dress up?
Because Joy was like the thing about Joy, she was so good for me because she's a Libra.
Ooh,
like
love
you,
a Libra.
Mary Elizabeth.
That's right.
My like uptight, high-strung Virgo-ness was like, let's put some sequins on,
Right.
shall we?
Yeah.
But it was also, she was so breathtakingly beautiful naturally that it was sort of like, you just needed things to complement her rather than overpower her. So the thing is, there's this moment in my styling career that I'll always remember when I put her in this lilac Alexander McQueen very early on, like 2007 or 6 or something, 7, 8, something like that. And it was one of my favorite looks because it just was like, she was like this tall, statuesque beauty that just kind of wore this very easy couture gown, and it was very kind of shredded and
stunning,
cool, but it was very her.
Yeah.
And so I think for me as a stylist, and I think any stylist, hairstylist, makeup artist, clothing stylist, whatever it is, we're only doing our job if we can work around all types of women, all types of bodies, all types of style. And I think that was an example of trying to style. Joy, who was like this sort of edgy, effortless, casual girl. And then Deborah, who was like this obviously super talented actor, mega TV star at the height of Will and Grace, who, loved a gown.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of like, but I think the thing with Deborah was it was sort of like, let's always capture your beauty and compliment it, not overpower it. And also like not too much, but still keep the cool, if that makes sense. Cause she had such a known as Grace.
Yes.
She had to the same way Jennifer Aniston as Rachel,
Yep.
You have to sort of balance that character with also being glamorous, but still funny, but still
approachable,
cool, easy, and approachable,
elevated. Yeah, it's a lot of different angles to consider.
Yeah,
a lot of different angles.
Literally,
figuratively. The episode ends with poor sweet Roger not being able to have dinner with you. You go to the Michael Kors show. Mm-hmm. Roger goes to hang out with his friends. Mm-hmm. They're playing pool, which is funny to me. I don't think I've ever seen Roger play pool. I'm sure he does.
Not that much.
But you close out the episode talking about one of the biggest issues of your life is balancing your family life with your fashion life.
Still.
And we laughed and we were like, wow. Uh-huh. Some things never change.
No, and it's hard because, I think because Roger and I have been together for so long, I think especially at that time, when you're young and you have no kids, it's really just about building your careers, or at least it was for us.
Yeah.
And I think his career was more, I guess, normal in terms of like working hours. And anyone in the fashion industry could tell you there are no hours, right? Like It's not a corporate job. It's not a predictable job. And I would say that styling is one of the most unpredictable. Being a hairstylist and makeup artist, a stylist. The difference in being a hairstylist or makeup artist versus a clothing stylist is that doing fittings, you're prepping for several days before, you're returning several days after, you're laying out tons of money, you have tons of receipts. There's a lot of administrative work that goes with that.
Yes.
On top of the fact, you are schlepping trunks, wardrobe trunks, suitcases, garment bags. Like there's a lot of physical, emotional work that goes along with being a clothing stylist.
There's a lot of grunt work.
And so I think when you take that into account, it pulls more time out of your personal life. And I think especially during Fashion Week, I didn't always want to take Roger because I knew that I wouldn't be able to necessarily be with him, although I always wanted to be with him. And I think, ultimately when I had my children, I did the same thing. I was just, instead of separating the two, I tried to join the two. So I would bring Roger.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to be away with him, from him. And it's interesting. I see stylists now traveling with their significant others. And, and I see it, I think, but it's hard because your partner doesn't always do something where they can travel with you.
Yeah. And I think, again, you said, I think when we were talking about episode 1 or maybe 2, you said something that when you're a stylist, you are in the service industry.
Yes. I say it every day.
Full stop.
I said it every day.
Your job is to serve your client. And
I need to remind people of that constantly. It's not about you.
Right. You're in the servitude of somebody else.
Yes.
And
you're a waiter for clothes.
A waiter for clothes. Oh my God, that's hilarious. No, so I think it is. Like, it makes total sense to me to have your safe person there because it takes an incredible amount of giving and energy and time and emotion to give a client like that. Full stop. So it is nice to have your like rejuvenating safe person.
Yes.
Even if you only have 2 hours and you're barely asleep and all of that.
But don't forget here too to talk about rewatching. Like, we had like lights and cameras around us too.
Yeah.
So like on top of me doing my actual real job,
right,
we're shooting. Mm-hmm. So it's like, wait, Rachel, don't get in the car yet. Like, I'm like, I'm late. I have to get in the car. Yeah. And they're like, wait, but we don't have the filter on the window or like
Hold
the
for
blackout.
audio.
Hold for audio. We're hearing your earrings clanking on the mic. And I'm like,
my God.
fuck off. Like,
I know.
Like,
but I actually am late to the Marc Jacobs show.
right? No, actually. And that was literally the biggest challenge is I was like, shooting reality television is great for people who don't have a day job.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, episode 3 was really fun. Episode 4 coming up. We have a special guest that's going to be joining you. So stay tuned for episode 4 because there's more tea to spill. Bye.
Bye. If you want more Climbing in Heels content, follow me on @RachelZoe and @ClimbingInHeelsPod on Instagram for more updates on upcoming guests, episodes, and of course, all things Curator.